under 3 though.
What's up, guys? We're going to talk about belts this week. So, a good belt goes a long way. Typically, when anybody gets into shooting gear, they start with a belt, whether it be an EDC belt or some flavor of out-of-the-waistband belt. But why should you spend your hard-earned money on a purpose-made gun belt? Well, if you carry a gun every day, subscribe to the I Train with Firearms so that when things go south, I can defend myself and my loved ones, then you need a reliable, stable, and consistent belt to draw your weapon of choice from, as well as hold all your first-line equipment. I heard Josh from Dirty Civilian say in a video, carrying a gun isn't comfortable, but it is comforting. Knowing what to look for and what suits your needs is going to save you guys quite a bit of trouble. So let's start with my battle belt setup. Battle belts are an overt piece of kit. When you're considering an out-of-the-waistband type belt, think about what situation would I actually don this belt, whether it be home defense, community defense, law enforcement, because things would have to get pretty bad if you were actually wearing this in public. I always think if I'm wearing my out-of-the-waistband belt in public, then I should at least have my rifle. And if I have my rifle, I should probably have some type of armor on. Now, I was never issued a battle belt in the Army. Most soldiers are never issued pistols, so everything is reliant upon their chest rigs or plate carriers. So all of my belt experience comes in the last 5 years as a civilian. When I first started shooting, I relied pretty heavily on my belt to carry all of my gear. However, as I got more experienced, I realized, man, the more I put on my waist, the more cumbersome I feel. Not to mention, sitting in a vehicle with a belt full of equipment sucks pretty bad. So on this belt, I keep it pretty slim. Any medical, explosives, radios, or mission equipment I keep on my plate carrier, because this belt is basically a two-part system with my carrier. One of the biggest things I see with guys' full kit setups is they build them independently instead of as one system that works together. Make sure your belt doesn't interfere with your carrier when you have to move in an athletic way. So this is the Faro Concepts Bison belt. It's done me well over the years, although I do have a complaint, but we'll get to that later. Now, I like to keep 2 rifle carriers on this belt because that's my primary weapon system when I have it on. If you notice, I have a 20 round and a 30 round because right where the 20 sits, if I put a standard PMAG, it prevents some of my range of motion. I also like to have a Kydex pistol carrier on this belt, and sometimes I swap it out for the angled S-Tac depending on what I'm doing. I haven't really had any issues with the Kydex one. For my holster, I run a Safariland 6390 RDS. It's actually a Glock 19 version, but I modified the barrel plug so I can run my 45 with the comp just fine. The holster mount is a True North Concepts with a Safariland's QLS system. If you don't have a nub mod on your Safariland, you're really missing out. So that about does it for my battle belt. Let's move on to my competition belt. This belt, while similar, has a bit more going on. Usually when I have this belt on, it's the only piece of kit I have on, so I need a few more things than my other one. This is the T-Rex Arms Speed Belt. I bought it back when T-Rex was a respectable company. It's cool because the MOLLE webbing is sewn on the inside, so the weight of the attachment is supported on the actual belt instead of just the MOLLE. This setup uses the Tech-Lock system primarily so that I can move carriers around and swap things out if need be. I have this rifle carrier drop attachment. For the life of me, I cannot remember where I got it. But it's nice and it sits the carrier in a much more accessible spot than without it. Moving back, I have an Eagle dump pouch, which usually just stores water bottles, empty magazines, and hand chuck. It has a drawstring and I haven't had a need to replace it. The next thing before my holster is a Neomag tack trap. This thing rocks, although I do wish the magnet was a little stronger. It holds my gloves and my Sword and Deer Pro. For my holster, it's just a passive retention Kydex holster attached with a QLS and Safariland's UBL mid-ride. Nothing fancy, but it's fast and it does what I need for USPSA. In the front, I have this elastic tourniquet holder which I actually bought off Amazon, which is pretty solid. I'll put the link in my description. Again, I like to stay pretty streamlined. Now here's what I would consider the most important part of any two-piece belt, the inner belt. My only complaint about the Bison belt is that the inner belt it comes with is trash. It's not sportive, the adjustment system has loops that you hook into depending on if you want it tighter or looser, which never seem to be right where you want it. So that was the first thing I replaced. I went with the Ronin inner belt. It's about 35 to 40 bucks depending on the color and size you get, and worth every penny. It's slim, durable, and very stiff, which is what you want because the inner belt actually creates most of the structure for your outer belt. I use the Ronin for both my out-of-the-waistband belts, and it works great for both. Now, Faro has since released a new version of the Bison, which I haven't gotten my hands on, so I can't speak about the new one's inner belt. There's also a ton of great two-piece belts out there today, so you don't have to go with the ones I have here. Bear Solution makes a great one, Sub-Second, GBRS, Ronin Tactics has a nice battle belt, Blue Alpha, Core has their own duty-style ratcheting belt, the list goes on. The last style belt I have that I want to talk to you all about is EDC or in the waistband belts. I've tried the regular leather belt, I've tried a belt with a big old Cobra buckle, then I found coarse ratcheting belts and never went back. These things are the move. Driving in the car? Loosen a little. Getting out of the car? Tighten a couple notches. Just ate a Chipotle burrito? Loosen a few. I have both their nylon style and their leather, and both are awesome. The nylon's a little thicker and gives really good support when carrying a full-size gun with an X300. The leather, while also giving good support, is a little more comfortable and moves with you like a standard belt. Both are great, and I wear both every day depending on what I'm doing. Alright guys, that's about does it for my belts and how I like to set them up. At the end of the day, grab a belt that suits your needs, get out on the range, and train with it. Doesn't matter if you got the Gucciest gear out there or the most basic. What matters is if you can use it. Or at least that's what my wife tells me. Peace.
I want to see that time. 181.
Woo!